Are you done feeling stuck about your English and want to learn a couple of tips on how to elevate your English learning? Watch this video to find out more. Hey English learners, my name is Csabi. Welcome to my channel for English learners who want to learn how to make vocabulary more memorable through listening and spoken interaction. Now let's see what successful international speakers do. Now, the first one is a big one. They try to integrate high quality language learning and language use in their everyday life. So in my case, English has been my dominant language ever since I left my home country, Hungary, and I haven't stopped using it on a daily basis. Easy for you to say, you're an English teacher, Csabi. You might say, well, it's not that easy, and I'm sure there are thousands of English teachers around the world who don't get exposure to English on a daily basis besides their classes. So it's not just because I'm an English teacher, it's because I intentionally worked on building a network of people, a circle of international friends around me, people that I can literally talk with at any given time. And this is what I highly recommend you do as well. Do your work, try to intentionally look out for people that you can practice English with, so there's always a way to have output opportunities as well. You will also see that once you create this English life, so to speak, you will gradually gain confidence, more of which I talk about in this video. Always look out for genuine connections whenever you're looking for a way to practice your English and make friends. And I know it's extremely hard to find friends as an adult, like make really close friends as an adult. I've tried in Japan, I've lived here for 3 years. Honestly, I failed, haven't really made really close friends. So I'm not the best example for that in terms of my Japanese studies. But when it comes to the international community, I'm sure if you do your part, if you put in the effort, you will be able to find people, you will be able to make friends, and you will have people to talk to. You don't always have to look out for a speaking partner. I don't even like this word because your speaking partners should be your friends, your international friends. When you look approachable and you accept people's craziness, sometimes I know this is hard to do as an adult, you show some tolerance and you approach the whole thing from the point of view of wanting to improve, wanting to grow not only as a language learner, but also as a human being, wanting to find out what it's like to live in another country, what it's like to use English in a totally different context from yours. I promise the benefits outweigh the risks. You will learn so much more about yourself as well, not just being able to practice English. And once you create these really strong bonds with people, you will have that real English life that you could basically tap into on a daily basis. Now, if you're looking for like-minded people to make friends with, then check out my free Facebook group, the Fluency Camp. I will leave a link below. You're more than welcome to join and find people to really bond with. This brings me to my next point, which is randomly speaking, especially if you want to become a more advanced or proficient speaker of English, is simply not enough. Think of what you do when you engage, when you genuinely engage in a conversation. Do you really pay attention to how to gain control over what you say? Not really. So we don't tend to pay attention to how we say things when we focus on communication, because we really focus on meaning. And this is partly why, and I can see so many students coming to class and just keep speaking, never really learning how to, or never really focusing on how to say things in another way, in a better way, in a more complex way. So fluency practice is definitely important, especially if you live in a non-English speaking country, but it should take up not more than about 25%, so a quarter of your study time or practice time. Now, how to do a bit more intentional studying, how to learn how to really gain control of how you say things in a better way, we'll be talking about that in a minute. The next thing is, successful English learners know that they have to be ready to be able to use their English at any given time. And you might feel like, right now I live in a non-English speaking country, English doesn't affect my life, so it can wait. I will learn English one day and I will magically just improve my English. But how far do you think you will get with this attitude? What if you get a proposal? What if you get an offer giving you an opportunity to work in Dubai, in Canada, or goodness knows where. And what if the only criterion for you to be able to get that job is to be able to speak English at an advanced level? You've just missed out on a huge opportunity. Speaking English is basically a lifestyle. If you don't build in a high quality practice, language practice, and language use in your everyday life, you can hardly expect to progress because you won't feel being challenged on a daily basis to do something else, and you would just prefer to stay in your comfort zone with your phone, watching lives, watching different posts on social media or this video without ever taking action and trying to do something more productive with your English. Staying consistent with your English isn't so hard to achieve, believe me. And I will definitely upload a habit building video in the future to tell you how I help my students become these people who have developed a habit of always going back to English and trying to do something on a daily basis to keep staying consistent and basically don't waste time just learning inefficiently for hours and hours as so many people do. But please don't think that just because you don't need English right now, you won't need it next week, next month, or next summer, because an opportunity can knock on your door any time. And it's just so painful to see all these students coming to me saying that, well, I haven't used English in the last 5 years, but I have an interview in 2 months. Can you help me? Or saying something like, my exam is on the 27th and I just want to start learning English. And I already know that these students have basically set themselves up for failure because they didn't integrate this mindset. They didn't really apply this mindset and try to use English on a daily basis. They are in survival mode about their English. What I want to segue into now is time. How time conscious you are when you study or when you use English. Language learning takes a long time. Everyone knows that you won't get fluent in 6 months. I hope you know that by now. There are so many things you can do to save time and get your goals faster. These are all things that we do in my coaching program with my students, and it truly helps them really fast track their progress. Be careful how focused you are when you are learning. Our attention span is so short nowadays. Some people have already moved on from this video because they are either not interested, they don't like my face, or simply, most likely, because they just can't pay attention for a longer time. And one thing you can blame is your phone. TikTok, Instagram Reels, Snapchat, all these applications basically train your brain to jump over from one content to another. So you feel like watching a 10-minute video on tips how to become a successful language learner is a pain. Then you've got to, reduce that amount of time that you spend on your phone. Another way you can save time is by studying using efficient methods. I talk about loads of effective ways you could learn vocabulary in this video, so I'm just going to be talking about what's not in that video. And you've got to make sure that you process English the optimal way. Processing English means you put whatever is outside in the environment, information, chunks, expressions that you heard, you saw, phrases that you use with your friends, and your brain will either accept all this information, part of this information, or not. And you can set your brain up for success by paying close attention. When you knuckle down to studying, dedicate around 20-25 minutes of active learning. Make sure that you don't get distracted. Your phone is in a different room or far away from you, and dive really deep into whatever you're reading or listening to. If there are people around you distracting you with asking you a favor or just wanting to waste your time, shut the door, put on your headphones. It's basically an indicator that you are not interested. Stephen King once said, "The closed door is your way of telling the world and yourself that you mean business." So really try to make sure that you don't distract yourself. When you manage to really laser focus on what you're doing, you're learning new vocabulary or analyzing the grammar of the sentences that you read, then your goal is to stay in the flow, to be in a state where you don't even notice what you are doing because you're so engaged in that activity. This happens to me all the time when I teach, and it's a habit that I created, I worked on, and whenever I teach, I'm in the flow, focusing all my attention on my students and how best to help them. I don't think of whatever I'm going to eat for dinner or listen to how many trains get past my window. You might think that you won't be able to focus to that degree or for that long, 20-25 minutes, but it's all about building a healthy habit and training your brain to focus for a longer time. You will save so much time by doing this. The amount of attention you give to what you're learning is so important. And a bonus for you just for staying along and watching this far, you definitely have an attention span that is longer than that of a goldfish, which is great nowadays considering other people. Remember that knowledge is not knowledge until you apply it. Responsible English learners who truly care about their English know that they need to use the vocabulary they learned, strategically plan how they could say things with more complex grammar in a way that truly helps you express yourself the way that you choose to. Learning can only happen through action. If you keep reading your books, then you will get better at reading books. So make sure that the actions you take in English always align with your goals. Don't learn ineffectively like you did in school when you were basically watching a teacher explaining you things. You get to know more and do more if you do it. Use a teacher as a mentor, a guide, or a coach, but don't expect them to do things instead of you. Keep challenging yourself, even if you don't live in an English-speaking environment. Look out for opportunities to really step out of your comfort zone, especially if your goal is to become a proficient speaker. Challenges are what motivate us. They give us confidence and they help us measure our success. Never forget that. With this, let me wrap up this video. I'm so incredibly grateful for you watching it and for any support you can give to this channel. Let me know what I should expand on in a future video if the information in this video wasn't enough, and watch some of my previous videos you could see around me to know more about how you should set up yourself up for success in English. Hope to see you in another video. And you might say easy for you to say Csabi, basis, it doesn't affect me, but how English keep challenging yourself where you're not really pushed into keep